Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Advaita Gadadhar Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare
Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Gaur Premanande. All glories to the seven devotees. All glories to the seven devotees. All glories to the seven devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Talk a little bit from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's the kind of it's considered to be the 7-year-old wonderfully educated and it's kind of like the PhD in the in spiritual life. It's the kind of the but actually it's not. There's some parts I'm going to speak on is the very beginning as well. So it's but mainly I want to talk about the importance of the mantra that we were just chanting, the Hare Krishna mantra. So I'll just get this spot up that I want to speak on. to lotus again. So amazing. Maybe I'll just go. Do we have the Chaitanya Charitamrita there? Or you know what I'll do? I'll actually use my phone if it's not there. Volume 1. Yes, I think that's what I'm looking for. Now I need my glasses. 1:3:32. Okay, and so just say a little prayer at the start. Not everybody knows it. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So reading from the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela chapter 3, text number 40. The religious practice for the age of Kali is to broadcast the glories of the holy name. Only for this purpose has the Lord in the yellow color descended as Lord Chaitanya. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In this age of Kali, the practical system of religion for everyone is the chanting of the name of Godhead. This was introduced in this age by Lord Chaitanya. Bhakti Yoga actually begins with the chanting of the holy name. As confirmed by Madhvacharya in his commentary on the Mundaka Upanishad, he quotes this verse from the Narayana Samhita. In the Dwapara Yuga, people should worship Lord Vishnu only by the regulative principles of the Narada Panchavatrika and other such authorized books. In the age of Kali, however, people should simply chant the holy names of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Hare Krishna mantra is specially mentioned in many Upanishads, such as the Kali Santa Upanishad, where it is said, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. After searching through all the Vedic literature, one cannot find a method of religion more sublime for this age than the chanting of Hare Krishna. Lord Chaitanya, who's the personality? Does everyone know Lord Chaitanya? Personality of Lord Chaitanya, Panchatattva. They appeared, Lord Chaitanya appeared in 1486, that's the modern era, and he left in 1534. And his main mission was to spread the chanting of the holy name everywhere. So that's why you see it here in Dublin, Ireland in 2026, because it was spread over here. The great emissary, of course, is Srila Prabhupada, who brought it to the West in 1965, 66. And the very first storefront that he had was a small temple, but he had a picture of Lord Chaitanya in the window. And many newcomers came there and they saw this picture and they came in and they had never heard of Lord Chaitanya before. And in fact, Lord Chaitanya is not even hugely known in India, like in comparison to maybe Lord Krishna or Lord Ram, you know, you wouldn't have the same kind of setting, you know. So, but he obviously appeared 500 years ago. I was there at the anniversary in 1986 for the 500th anniversary of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. As a new member to the Hare Krishna movement, I was in it for about 4 years. So I didn't really understand that much who Lord Chaitanya is, even who Krishna is, you might say. But I understood him enough to give up my college or career as a teacher to become a full-time monk in this system, because it had given so much energy that I'd never experienced before. And I'd studied things like Buddhism, Christianity quite extensively. Not saying that there isn't power in those systems, but I found that the information and the explanations that were contained were very scientific and spiritually very potent. And I remember the same year we went to Jagannath Puri, and there we spent a week there actually on the seafront, and you know, going in for a swim with the big waves coming in from Puri, from the Bay of Bengal. It's the Bay of Bengal, isn't it? From Puri, yeah. And then we were brought around to all the different places, and Lord Chaitanya actually lived there for half of his life. Well, 18 out of his 48 years. We went to, for the last 12 years of his life, he occupied a space of, I think it was 12 foot by 12 foot. It was called a Gambhir. It's not a very large space. But that's where he spent a lot of his time. And he would be studying all the incredible, anyway, it's quite an advanced stage of realization of God, of the Godhead. But yeah, he spent his last 12 years there meditating. And I remember going to that place, and the thought that I had was, you know, I know this in Christianity that wherever, you know, where the appearance of Christ would be, that would be a very important place, you know, where he would appear. So I understood that from my understanding of philosophy, that this is probably the most important place in the world. I remember thinking that at the time. I was trying to take it all in, but, you know, I was kind of only 4 years following the system. I went back about 35 years later, and I also had that same understanding. While I was away, I was still thinking that this is an incredibly important place, that the person who's bringing in the system of spirituality for this age actually was alive 500 years ago and was distributing this freely. And another important point to remember as well is that Lord Chaitanya is non-different from Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna appeared 5,000 years ago, but Lord Chaitanya is a hidden incarnation of Krishna. Krishna's main point at the end of Bhagavad-gita is, can anyone tell me what is the end of Bhagavad-gita? What does Krishna say? That's one of the things he says, a little bit before he says that, yeah. There's something else he says. What is it? Which means surrender. In order to understand God, we have to surrender to God. One of the reasons that we're in this material world is because we don't like to surrender to God. We have a real tendency to actually elevate ourselves within our consciousness So everybody get this? This is kind of an important point. Within our consciousness, we consider ourselves the most important. And so we like to be served. We don't like to, we like to be served. But unfortunately, in this planet, everybody has the same mentality. So it's a bit we come across some difficulties from time to time, isn't it? Either in ourselves, in our families, in our communities, in our countries, in the world, in our continents. You never find everybody serving each other. But everyone wants to be, I'm from the best race, I'm from the best religion, I'm from the best country, I'm from the best district in this country, and it's just, it goes on like that. But of course the point is at the point of death, we leave all that behind. And one of the ironies of spiritual life is that we often end up in the place that we thought was the worst, because we're meditating on negatively about something or some place. And we often end up in that place in our next life because that's what we're meditating on. It says in Bhagavad-gita, it's whatever you're thinking of at the time of your death. We used to have that joke in Ireland when we were giving talks that, if you're a Protestant in one lifetime, in the next lifetime, if you're thinking about Catholics all the time, you'll become a Catholic in your next life. So, but then, unfortunately, so we can't really, hold a lot of value for our particular situation in this lifetime, because we're beyond all of those things. And that's what impressed me the most, I think, when I studied Bhagavad-gita. When that very clear explanation came across that this body is a temporary covering. What is it? 220. Anyone know that verse? Bhagavad-gita 220. Chaitanya? No, not Vasavasi Jamani. That's the 22 as we get now. 220. I say I can't consult me. You can go on the computer for it. Na jayate mriyate bhakatanchin. Na bhutva bhavitavana vidyam. Could you read the English on it?
Yeah.
For the soul, there's no birth.
For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain.
So you don't get that anywhere else, You don't get that, In most of it, because I study quite a lot of systems, and they don't have that there, And for the soul, there's never birth nor death, nor having one's being does he ever cease to be. Eternal, ever existing. Eternal, that's the soul, that's who we are. But from minute to minute, we change, There's so many things we're affected by in this body, like whether it's the Irish weather, the moods will change with the Irish weather. Old age, birth, death, disease. Disease, old age, disease is affecting us. And then there's morning time, there's noon time, there's evening time, again. All of these things are affecting us, So therefore we think that we're temporary in this body. It's difficult for us to get a grasp of this eternality. But we can, by the method that Lord Chaitanya introduced, which is the chanting of the holy names of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now you kind of can think that, is that easy? But this is there's two instructions, there's two major instructions. One is one instruction, the other instruction has 4 different instructions in it that the spiritual master gives at the time of initiation. And the first one is The 4 regulations is no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, and no intoxication. Okay. And what's the other one? Chanting 16 rounds every day. How long does it take to chant 16 rounds? About 2 hours. Some people a bit more, some people a bit less. So is that an easy thing to do?
Depends on who's chanting.
Yeah.
It takes more some time.
It doesn't. So I said, is that easy? And someone said, no, it's not. I've been chanting 16 rounds for 7 jobs, I've been chanting pretty much the same time, about 40 years or something. And the more that we chant, the more we see the importance of the chanting actually. But still, while chanting, the mind tends to go on different things. Whether it is my favorite ones, just as I chanted about 12 rounds. One thing I want to say, I try to chant 16 rounds in one go before I do anything else. Actually, there's one thing I do is, in previous to that, I try to read the scripture for 1 hour every day before I chant. But I'm not trying to say I'm a great guy, because I'm not. But around the time, different distractions, you can be thinking what you're going to do during the day, you can be thinking about this, that, so many different things. But we're meant to focus just on the sound of the name. That's what we're meant to focus on. That's not easy, It's simple, but it's not easy. But the more that we spend our time, the more we use our energy to try to focus on that, the more we're building our spiritual strength. Nothing else at that time. If just for those 2 hours, if we can chant maybe 4 rounds, we have different capacities and you build up sometimes. I personally was kind of okay. I got right into 16 once I was told I had to do 16. But previous to this, in our ashrams, people used to chant 64 rounds. In Prabhupada's time, the people would chant. So it was made easy for us, 16. Anyway, but still 4, a fixed number every day is very important. And that has to be done with attention. And the more we do that, the more strength that we develop. So, does anyone have any idea of what would a yogi look like? Does anyone have it? Give you a picture in your mind. What is a yogi, right?
Someone clad in an orange.
Yeah.
Physically fit.
Yeah.
And intense look.
Intense, yeah. Where would he live normally?
In jungles or in the mountains.
In the jungles or the mountains, exactly. So, would anyone here like to live in a jungle or a mountain? And wearing tree bark as well. No nice denims, no nice, And it gets cold sometimes in the mountains as well. But they're wearing very minimal, So, would you find that easy? No. It'd be practically impossible. Maybe for some few great souls, maybe. But generally that's not available for us. We can't do that today. You could try the Wicklow Mountains maybe and see what it's like. It can get pretty cold there as well. But there's not a big population of people running out to the Wicklow Mountains. But that's the general picture of a yogi, that he has to perform austerities. He gets away from all the distractions so that he can focus his mind, on the Supreme. He generally tries to see the Supreme within. There's basically the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad-gita. It's explained what a yogi basically does. He sits in a sacred place, which is neither high nor low. he sits on a deer skin and he meditates in his mind and in a very secluded place. That's the description that Krishna gives. But what does Arjuna say about that? Because Krishna is telling him how he can become a devotee. So what is Arjuna's response? Yeah, Arjuna says, what you are saying is impossible, because the mind is flickering and unsteady. So Arjuna was a great warrior, and he was a great yogi himself. So if Arjuna is saying that, how would we fare out in that? Practically, if Arjuna can't do it 5,000 years ago, we're not going to be able to do it. So the austerity for this age is what I just mentioned there. And that's enough. We don't need to do any more. Sometimes people, they perform all sorts of different austerities, but that's my experience after chanting for 44 years. You don't need any more austerities. That's enough of an austerity. And that's backed up by the Shastra. The austerity of this age is to chant the holy name. Now, it's not that it's all difficult, sometimes it can be extremely blissful as well. Otherwise we wouldn't do it, because we're pleasure seeking. But we may not get the pleasure at the time. We may. It can be extremely enlivening sometimes when we're chanting, and we're actually hitting the spot. We're actually getting to Krishna. We feel as if we're communicating with Krishna. We can get that blissful. The chanting is so powerful, but there's days when we won't get that, because as I explained earlier, the Irish weather, all the various things that we have to encounter: birth, death, disease, old age. We can have a difficult life situation. We may have trouble at work. There might be, the office manager might be not very nice, or we may be the office manager and the other people are not very nice. Whatever. So many things could be going on. We could have relationship difficulties. All of these things are going on. But when you're coming to the chanting, that's a special time. It's a time apart. And that's what we have to build into our lives. That's an austerity. Whereas you find that Lord Chaitanya, he was able to have his Gambhira, is a very beautiful place, a very small place. So we need to have that ourselves. We need to have that space ourselves in our lives to be able to go there and actually to chant and to make the chanting the most important part of our day. That's really what it would take, to have that, there, and then we will find that we get an amazing strength. It's called a spiritual strength. Spiritual strength starts to happen, and we will also get knowledge. Knowledge is not something where you can go to a university and just learn it. That's a different type of knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is a much higher type of knowledge, and it's aporoshea, it's coming from God. He's within us, and he inspires us, and he gives us knowledge of the world and who we are and of who he is. But that's coming from that's coming up from our ability to understand it. We can make ourselves fit to understand it, but ultimately that's coming from God. And another important thing that we get from this is detachment. When we chant Hare Krishna, we become detached from the material world. So giving up intoxication is difficult for most people from Ireland. That was a joke, by the way.
It is.
What? It is, I know.
Yes.
It is, it actually is. Yeah. Because it's actually very difficult to do. But we have found in the Hare Krishna movement that people who have heard from about Hare Krishna and they have been addicted to dreadful substances and everything, you know. But the minute they started chanting, they stopped everything straight away. You know, I tell you, it is like that. It's because the potency in this mantra is like that. It gives you detachment from the world. So you're getting two things. You're getting knowledge and you're getting detachment. Because it's not easy. You look at all the different clinics around Dublin, you know, that are for people who've got addiction difficulties. You know, there's so many of them. Because it's very difficult to detach yourselves from these things. You know, the material world is like you just walk out there and you see millions of people so-called having a great time, you know, and they're trying to get away from themselves. And they're running away from the reality of who they are because it's too difficult for them. You know, the Irish weather, all these different things which can give people problems, like I mentioned. But the chanting of Hare Krishna will give us knowledge, but it will also give us this detachment so that it becomes easier. Now don't get me wrong, even people who've taken the spiritual life sometimes still suffer from that. It's so strong because it's from previous lifetimes even. The impressions are very deep, you know, but the beauty of the holy name, and that's why I'm saying that it takes a while sometimes, but we should, once we start, we shouldn't stop. You know, we should just keep on going. Even if we're not getting the taste or whatever straight away, don't worry. It's going to happen. Because all the great acharyas are giving that. In fact, that's why this movement has spread this far, because Srila Prabhupada took seriously the words of his spiritual master, who took seriously the words of Lord Chaitanya. And it had come all over the world, and people in any condition can take to spiritual life and can achieve the highest levels of spirituality. So it is an incredible bargain, but you know, it's not going to last forever. You know, we shouldn't kind of think, oh well, I'll wait till later on, and you know, everything will be fine. Maybe my next life. No, this is a very dangerous place. Kali Yuga is very dangerous. It's very easy to get whisked away into the material, you know. And then what happens is that our mind is just whirling around, creating future karma for ourselves. But if we take to the Krishna consciousness, our mind will be steady, and we will not be creating future entanglement. We will be creating our spiritual dimension. That's why I'm saying this is the austerity for this age. We don't need to create any other one. So just chant Hare Krishna as much as possible and as often as possible. The Kirtan ensemble, you know, when everyone chants together, that becomes really kind of a little bit easier, and it's really joyful at some stage. So I've seen hand marks on the ceiling there, people jumping up and down. So, you know, especially Kirtan, because it's very interesting. But you know, it is that the bliss of spiritual life is there, and we can experience it at different times. But this is another reason why I'm talking about detachment, why detachment is really important, because the spiritual detachment that we need it's important not to be attracted to the material, you know, bliss, or, you know, so-called bliss. Like, that's why people, they continue to take different substances, you know. I think there's probably a cocaine addiction among the, you know, the office people or whatever, you know. There's all these different addictions people have because they think they're getting bliss from these things, you know. But because they don't see that there's any other bliss, they say, okay, this is it. And you have all this pornography, people addicted to sex life, you know. It's like, it's huge. It's like, it's the big thing that's most accessed online, that I'm told anyway, something like 60-70% of all, people online are attracted there. So you might as well call a spade a spade. This is reality. This is what the children, the wonderful children, are growing up with. And the access to these things are just skyrocketed. Talking about the innocence of a child. My God, what hope have they got? Almost. But in order to experience spiritual bliss, we have to become detached from the material bliss. It's like, if we're filled up with looking for material bliss, there's no way the spiritual bliss can get in there. Do you know what I mean? There's just no space it can. So we have to become experts at getting detached from these things, which is, intoxication, gambling, illicit sex, and meat eating. These are the things which are blocking us actually from, going for the spiritual taste. We had a wonderful, wonderful program yesterday morning. One of our devotees, Madhvi Mataji, she does this kids, Krishna Conscious Kids Club, and we had Keshav Kumar was there. He was playing harmonium at this, and the kids were all chanting and singing, and they were doing different bhajans, and they were doing different. It was just kind of like they were doing dances and things like this. And then we had prasadam afterwards. But this, we're trying to inculcate this into from a very early age, that the bliss that is available in this planet can be attained by spiritual methods, not by material methods. So we're just hoping that in that sense to inculcate that into the youth of today, starting from the very beginning. I have a baby granddaughter, she's 18 months old, and when the Kirtan starts, she comes over and starts walking with the Kirtan, starts clapping her hands and everything. So it's a good start. So we need to be very conscious of this, conscious that we're, to start that from the beginning so that they get this taste. Because when we get that taste, then the other tastes fade away. There's a famous verse in Bhagavad-gita, can anyone tell me which says that? It's the second chapter, it's verse number 70. Vishaya vinivartante nira anasya dehinam rasavarjam nasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. The spirit soul, right, this is us, may be restricted from sense enjoyment. Sometimes like when we're ill, we're told, don't eat any sweets because it will be very bad for you. But the minute we're better again, we start eating the sweets again. So in other words, the taste is still there. So it says that the spirit soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, but the taste for sense enjoyment remains. But ceasing such activities by experiencing a higher taste, one becomes detached and in knowledge, So if you take nothing else from this class, that spiritual bliss, pleasure, is the only thing that's worth pursuing. It's not that we completely, you can't eat khichdi without putting a proper amount of salt on it, You have to put some salt on it. So we all need some sense gratification, all of us do. We can't all be, in fact, practically no one can be a monk these days, Only very few people can be completely detached. So we get married. So therefore we have Krishna conscious children, We have children who we bring into the world so that they can actually become devotees, They can help the world. That's how we do that, Or when we're eating food, we'll have a nice prasadam feast afterwards. So we don't have, I'm only eating raw vegetables today for the feast. If we were saying that, many people would be coming for the feast afterwards. You've got some dried celery, Celery, great. We have nice prasadam, Or all of these things, we have music, we have nice kirtan, And Prabhupada often said that we come to the temple regularly and we have arti ceremonies. Why? Because, you know, they take the desire to have nice images. Instead, people go look at the television, movies, whatever. But actually, you know, just by seeing every day the deity's cloth changed, you know, and we have this interrelation. If we want good literature, we don't go to Easton's. Everyone knows where Easton's is, do they? Next door. It's a big bookshop. You know. Don't go to Easton's and get the latest novel by Anne Enright. Does anyone know Anne Enright? Maybe. Or James Joyce. Definitely nobody knows about James Joyce. You know, there's so much in the Shastra, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Ramayana. It's literally, you can spend your life just discussing one or two verses. It's so amazing, you know. Okay, and here's another one. Is there any comments in this at this stage? Any questions? Anyone like to ask anything or say anything?
I'll ask you.
Okay.
So I read somewhere that you want. So
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong. I read that the first 10,000 years of Kali-yuga,
Yes.
Krishna said that he's going to stay with us
Yeah.
through pursuing science,
Yeah.
avatars like
Yeah.
now we are in the 5,000,
500.
500 years.
Yeah.
This is the first 5,000 years. Right?
Oh, it's the prediction starts from Lord Chaitanya's,
Okay.
1500s. Yeah.
So we still have,
9,500 years to go.
and then does it say what happens after that? Or is
It
not-
does, yeah. It says that it's practically impossible to practice spiritual life. It's practically impossible until at the very end of Kali Yuga, when the whole planet the whole planetary system is destroyed, and then the Satya Yuga begins again.
And that will go on for almost
432,000 years according to Shastra. So it's an incredibly valuable opportunity. When I was in Mayapur in 1986, like 500th anniversary, so it's saying, it starts from, so it's 500 years in. So that's when it started to spread out from India throughout the whole world, the Sankirtan movement. I can't stress enough how important the chanting is. You know? Whether it's our japa, whether we chant in our beads at home, or whether we chant congregationally. It's Golokera Premadana Harinama Sankirtana. The holy name, it descends from the spiritual world. It actually descends from the spiritual world, you know, specifically in this time. And to get even one drop, a little taste of that spiritual energy, well, that's what I got. That's like, okay, just dig this, guys. I'm 24 years old, I'm studying philosophy over there, and I get one little lecture, on the spiritual life. And here I am 40 something years later, and I'm still doing it, you know. So one little taste of spiritual life is powerful enough to bring you right out of this material and back to the spiritual life. And we're meant to be giving this to others as well, you know. And I found that there is being a big drop in people distributing this knowledge, you know. And hence Kali Yuga then becomes more potent. Degradation has become more relevant. So we need very committed souls to actually to imbibe this information and to actually to give it to others to experience. But the main thing is to experience it yourself. So it's 500 years, and then another 9,500 years, and then it's what's that? It is. I mean, it said this is the start of Kali, so it's going to get worse. Even the 10,000 could get worse.
And why do they say that they give us and do that?
Why do we do it?
So
And
this is because it's not going to matter that much and
Mm.
chanting and
yeah,
um,
it's called the Sankirtan Yoga. Yeah, yeah. And they're still important. You know, why do we do deity worship? I notice a lot of people in India love temples and they love deities. You know, but and Srila Prabhupada, you know, he made so many temples. How many ISKCON temples are there in the West? There's literally hundreds, isn't there? Do you know? There's many. Because he said that has to go on side by side with the chanting. You know, he wanted both of them to go on. Is it like a train track? You know, you need temples and you need the chanting as well. But the chanting has slight precedence in that the deity worship is there has to be chanting along with deity worship. You know, the deity worship on its own in this age will not survive as such. The chanting will enhance it as well. Everybody understand that, or any doubts or yes?
How do you stay detached? Because sometimes, like when situations are bad, we think that I am detached from this person. But when that is good, we say that I'm attached to this person. So then, how do you stay detached at all times?
Oh, did you get that? When things are going good, we're attached to this process. But then, if things are not going good, we think, this isn't working. So how can we become? Yeah, I mean, it's very, very, very important question actually. Okay, can I give you an example? Arjuna, right? Arjuna, look what Arjuna had to go through, right? His own son, what was his son's name? Abbey, right? I mean, can you imagine the heartache that is when his son was taken away from him? Okay? And so don't worry, Krishna is not thinking of that for everybody. He sometimes does that for his devotee because he knows his devotee is still going to have full faith in him. But Arjuna never once lost faith. You know? So that's the example that's there. Queen Kunti, you've heard of Queen Kunti, haven't you? Yeah, Bhagavatam, I'm sure you've heard of Queen Kunti. So when you get to reading into the Bhagavatam more, her prayers are really, really powerful. Queen Kunti's prayers. And she is the mother of Arjuna in that sense, do you know? So you can imagine what she had to go through for Arjuna and for her grandsons and her great-grandsons and all of that. But she never, ever, ever once doubted Krishna. So they're given examples for us that when we sometimes things won't always go great, there'll be some problems there, but we'll think, still Krishna is giving me some lesson here, you know. And this is a really important one. It's a difficult one to understand but if everyone would just listen very carefully just for a second, because this is spiritual science. If somebody is not spiritually on a spiritual path, right, then whatever they're doing, they're just creating their future karma. You know, it's like the human machine is unbelievably complex. The human eye is capable of taking in 10 billion photons of light energy. This is the eye. The mind is only able to process 10,000 of those images that come in out of the 10 billion. But you know, the apparatus inside is only capable of taking 10,000. But inside that again, we're only able to understand 500 or so and make sense of things. So of all the things that are coming, like if you just look at the room at the moment, millions of things happening that are coming into us. We're only able to process only 500 of those, right? So the human energy is the soul is at this very second in time is taking is open to those 10 billion photons. So it's a very complex machine, and at the same time, it's a machine which is creating further karma. Can you imagine? At this very second, we are creating karma for ourselves. What machine can do that? There's no machine. This microphone can't do that. You know, this great computer can't do that. You know, but this incredible human machine is creating karma. You know, so that explains how intricate this machine is. So, a person who is not on a spiritual path is creating future reactions for itself. But someone who's on a spiritual path is not. But it appears, as well as it appears that we are. It appears that we are. Even when we take the spiritual life, things happen to us. They happen to our children and so on. But Krishna, at that point, he specifically gives us a specific karma, which will help us. Because we're saying to Krishna, Krishna, I want to go back to the spiritual world. I don't want to stay here in the material world. So Krishna says, okay, you should get millions of lifetimes of karma. Instead, I'm going to bring it really way down into this one lifetime, or a few lifetimes, and give you just a specific token. And this token is going to point to you where you have to work to improve your spiritual life. That was a pretty complex idea. I'm just going to try to get across there. I don't know. Hands up who kind of understood what I was saying there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7. Good. It's a complex idea. But definitely, this spiritual potency is so powerful. It is incredibly powerful that we don't create karma anymore. We block it. Everyone, every insect, well, no, they're not creating karma. They're just, it's living through them. But every human is creating karma like that. But if we take the spiritual life, we will create future spiritual karma, we could call it. You know, we will go back, we're creating our spiritual future. So that's the answer to your question. So if there's difficulties, we have to get the spiritual muscles to be able to talk, Oh, so many things happening around here. Quiet, everyone. Sorry, thank you. It's just, I'm just saying it's hard to get a message across if there's so many things going on, you know.
For us to get the you said that Krishna will give us a cue of kind of engaging for not having that kind of policy. What's the one or two things that one should do to get Krishna's attention?
To get Krishna's attention. Prabhupada often said it, right? That to get Krishna's attention, we need to give this knowledge to others. You know, to get the knowledge ourselves and to give it to others. Because it's the greatest welfare work. I mean, I know there's so much suffering in the world today, and people will try to ameliorate the suffering. But unfortunately, sometimes you ameliorate the suffering and then people get more suffering. But in spiritual life, when you ameliorate the suffering, you're giving people the tools, the technology, not to ever suffer again. You know, you're giving them the way to. So when Krishna sees that, now, why would that be so important to Krishna? Can anyone answer that question? Why is this such a big, that he gives you 100% marks rather than 2%?
Because he wants everyone to come back home.
Because these are all his children, you know, and they're all stuck here. Can you imagine if your own children were in this world, or your parents, or whatever, you know, and you'd be trying to get them out like anything. If there's anything, because I know, I don't want to be using just the people from India, their example, but you know, I've seen so many of my friends from India, they go back regularly to see their parents because they're just so, are you okay? Is what's happening? Is this okay? Is this, you know, it's you have that. So Krishna's like that as well. He sees us in this position, and he wants us to really leave this. So anybody who does that, and Krishna says it in the Bhagavad-gita, if anyone wants to check it, 1872, he said, there will never be one more dear to me than he who gives this message to my devotees. He says that. So the more we can advertise about this spiritual knowledge, and the more we can get it out there and get people to practice it, the more Krishna's going to be pleased with us. That was Srila Prabhupada's instruction from his spiritual master. He said, if you ever get money, print books. And already there's been over 500, it's heading towards 600 million books of Shastra have been distributed worldwide. And there's a specific campaign now on at the moment to distribute 100,008 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam. There's the top shelf, there's the Srimad Bhagavatam around the world. So I'm not putting anybody under pressure at the moment. Sometimes I do, but I won't at the moment. But please keep it in mind, to have a set of Bhagavatams in your house is very, very auspicious. It's like having Krishna. Because when he left this planet, he actually, he said, I reincarnate in the Bhagavatam. I love, Chaitanya, you should know this verse. What is the verse that's in the Bhagavatam? Krishna says that he incarnates as them in the Bhagavatam. For those who lost their vision through the dense darkness of this Kali Yuga shall get light from this Purana. You'll get light, you'll be able to live here. Because otherwise we're in darkness. We actually don't know what's going on. That's the scenario. Is there any other comments, any other questions? Anyone likes to ask anything else? I'm just getting one book here. Well, maybe not. We all need lifetimes of these questions and answers. The Bhagavatam, okay, I'll finish. I won't. Bhagavatam is all about questions and answers. It's what first attracted me to this Krishna consciousness. Can anyone tell me a person who asks questions and answers questions from the Bhagavatam? Anyone? Who? Yeah. Spot on. This is the number one answer. Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. Okay. Can anyone tell me anyone else who asks questions and answers? Yudhishthira Narad, yeah. Yeah. It's funny, that wasn't even what I was thinking. She's way ahead here. This one is way ahead. The sages of Navishram and Sutta Goswami, yes. Yeah. That's the introduction. Sutta Goswami and the sages, they're the first ones that are spoken about. And then there's someone else, there's straight away after that. Funny, that's in the first three chapters of first canto. Those first three. The sages of Navishram, they're asking who's fit. So that's why I'm encouraging people that this philosophy is not about necessarily giving answers, it's about asking questions. That's what our philosophy is about asking questions. So I didn't hear that? Yeah, that's another really advanced answer there. I train on to do it. There's a third one I'm looking for, but she's gone 4 and 5, so okay. Yes, Dave and Narada. And that's from chapters 3 till 6. And then from chapters 6 till 19, this is in the first canto, is Maharaj Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami. So even to read the first canto of Bhagavatam, so everyone, if they could please think about this, even think about it. Read Bhagavad-gita as it is, Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gita, because that's what we're discussing here today. But then, very soon after that, read the first canto of Bhagavatam. If you can get the whole Bhagavatam, please do. And how often should we read it? Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, which means every day. Is that unreasonable? Is that unreasonable to read it every day? It's not unreasonable, is it? But why doesn't anybody do it? You know? Why don't we do it? Because we think there's something more important. We think that we don't have time. But I tell you, at the point of death, then you'll know what's important and what's not. I'm not talking down, I'm talking to myself here as well, by the way. You know, because that's the only thing that's going to matter. It won't matter if you got a PhD or you got £1 million a day job, you know. It won't matter. And by the time, you know, it can be quite cutting as well, you know, because it does cut. It cuts deeply. But the pleasure, the spiritual energy that's released when one understands, you know, there's nothing can compare with it. You know, like just keep on making this point between the spiritual and the material energy, spiritual pleasure and material pleasure. Okay, another question. So, why do we? Are you ready, Ashani? Why do we find it difficult to read every day and to chant? Why?
The taste.
Taste, yeah. That's one thing, yeah. Why else? We don't have it. Okay, you could say, why do we not have a taste? What else do we do every day? We eat, sleep, yeah, we work, you know. So how many hours does that take up? How many hours have you got? Sleep, take away 8, say 16.
Work, 8, sleep.
Work, 8, sleep.
Another 4 hours.
Yeah. And then what the other 4 hours like? Scroll. Social media.
Screen time.
What's that?
It's a screen time.
Screen time.
Screen time.
Yeah, exactly. So that's and why do we do that? Why do we do that?
Habitual, because you're used to it.
Because our brain told set told us
Our which?
because our brain told us to do that.
Interesting. Yeah, it's a good, interesting answer. Because the brain is there, yeah.
It's scared to sleep with our mind.
The brain, yeah, it's important to understand that there's the brain there, but there's also the mind. You know, the mind is more subtle than the brain. And that's the Bhagavad-gita explains that. And then more subtle than the mind is the and again, eventually coming to the soul. So that, do you know, did everyone know that's what Krishna says? No, that's what's in the Bhagavad-gita. He gives those different stages. And there's enough in that to study that for the rest of your life. You know, to experience it, because it's okay to know it, you know, to know it on paper. But if we were actually experiencing that as the soul, then do you know what? You wouldn't even pick up a newspaper. You wouldn't be interested in anything else, except. And do you know what? You'd be way happier. You know, you would. I actually had that experience that a little while ago. I stopped all pretty much news media and newspapers. Like I hadn't got my subscription for the Times, but I had for the Guardian. I would listen to lots of news, politics, everything. I'm sure everyone, sports. Oh my God, cricket results. You know, It's so many sports, But I don't do it anymore. I just completely given it up because there is a higher taste there, and I've no interest anymore. Even when I was a kid, I was an athlete. I played for Dublin for the under 14 footballers. I was into it. I liked it. I did all that stuff. But so even later in life, even as a devotee, I still would be following this and that. But it's no interest. It doesn't have any interest anymore, and because this is so absorbing. This spiritual energy is just, even that simple point about the brain and the mind. But it's a good answer, and thank you for putting that answer forward. That's good. I really appreciate that. And that, you actually will experience it, not just theoretically, but you will feel that. It's a feeling that a hungry person feels when he eats. He doesn't need to eat anything else. 10 to 6. Any last question? Anyone else? Okay, yeah, go ahead. How you develop the higher taste? Yeah, funny. I was getting to that in the reverse way. I was saying, why do we not do those things? Because we have a taste for lower things, right? That's the problem. We have that taste. So.
I'm sorry, I just have a feeling that I want to say.
Yeah.
My manager recently, a couple of weeks ago, she's Irish, and he was telling that Irish people can give up with some habits. So for her it was very strange that I'm not drinking. So she was looking at me very, very big eyes, and she's older than me, about 20 years old. And a couple of weeks ago, she asked me, do you go somewhere during the weekends, or do you go, because I'm alone most of the time. And I said, Hillary, I go most of the time, once in a week. I have to be in my temple. And I feel that I'm missing something. And if I don't come here, and I don't have my meal, I can't. For me, it's something that I'm missing so much during the week. And she was, and I said, I don't advise you because it's specific food. It's very spicy. It's very, but for me, it's the tastiest thing which I have during the week.
Yes. So that's I mean, I was going to say that you're very fortunate. That's a great fortune.
I think so. I think that's what I found this temple in Ireland. It's a very fortunate for me.
Wow.
I didn't expect it to go.
So, and then the taste also for the chanting. Then, that's the other thing. People, and I know you do because you play the chanting a lot. The taste for the chanting is the other thing which gives us that higher taste. The Prabhupada, his first thing that he did was he used to have Sunday feasts, and he gave out food to everybody. And people couldn't believe, because it's sanctified food, it's offered to God, they couldn't believe how amazing it was. So this is why we're continuing that tradition. That's still working too. That just, if we can give prasadam to our friends, that is amazing. Ask people to your house and learn how to offer food. If you don't know yet, but find out how to offer food first of all to the picture of Krishna. And then once that's done, that becomes sanctified, And then you just distribute that, to your friends. That's big preaching, Make sure you make it well as well, And that's very, very important. And like what the guys do, these guys here in front of us, always, they distribute that food to the people in front of the GPO. And it's incredible for them as well that they get that. And so that's real, welfare work. So, to develop the taste, make food, offer it to God, eat the food, chant Hare Krishna, which is what this whole class is about. Chant Hare Krishna all the time, as much as you can, and then read the books as well. But there's one last thing, is association of devotees. We come together and we associate. Because if we associate with the non-devotees, what happens is that we'll get all their taste. And we'll be committing all the karma again, we'll be doing all this stuff. It will drag us away from the main things that we need to do. And with that in mind, by Krishna's grace, after the feast at 7 o'clock, there's a couple of people I miss sending messages to. We're having just a little demonstration. You were there yesterday, just showing the project that we're trying to develop. I have the initial plans that it's just outside Dublin. It's for initially a community hall. Then eventually we have plans for a temple, for Goshala, for Govinda's restaurant just outside Dublin that will cater for hundreds and hundreds of people actually. So it's to create centres like that so that people can come and become nourished basically, and they can even live there nearby, because it's very difficult to get a place in the city centre. But if you get a place just maybe in the suburbs, and it's not the most expensive part of Dublin. It's expensive like most parts of Dublin are, but it would be good to to live near a temple, because then you can come more regularly, come every day or whatever. But you can come at least much more frequently. So if anyone's free, I meant to send you a text earlier, but if you're free later on, I just can go through some of the plans that are there, because we're meeting with the architect soon, and he's meeting with the planners, and they're going to give him a tough time, but we want to at least show things that we're not forgetting anything. It's unfortunate you can't have a huge temple. You're going to have a big temple, but it can't be, because the price of building something in Ireland is phenomenal. It's minimal 4,000. It's worked out at minimum for something like this. It's 4,000 euro for a square meter. So we were trying to do something for 1,200 square meters, and that's not enough even. So it starts to become. It's getting out his calculator there. What it's going to cost, but it's a spiritual activity. Anyone who becomes involved in this temple, it's a spiritual activity, and at a certain point, we're all going to need to get together and to do this for God. And not only for this generation that we're living in now, but for 100 years, 30 years, 40 years. And I was just explaining, the last thing I'll say, I was just explaining to the devotees earlier, when myself and John 40 years ago, we were trying to get a temple here in Dublin, and we've ended up with this temple, which took a long time. Prabhu was helping designing, getting all builders, everything here to do it, and John was part of the design. Using all the electrics. That's why we have this temple today, because of these devotees, and so our children, this community are here now. But I tell you, it won't be long, another 20, 30 years, when that next. My kids now are in their 30s, and they're having their kids now. So my kids had we had something there for them, but it wasn't. It wasn't bad. We did our best. But the next group of children should have, Sunday school, should have Guru, so that they can remain immune from the material. And the association of the devotees will make it really, really powerful for them. So that, it's not a quick fix, but it's something that we can think about, and we can develop. But Prabhupada was very much interested in action. He didn't want it to be, you can have it theoretically, but we need to do now, we need to act now and have this for the future. And that's what's called the mode of goodness, and Shuddha-sattva, which is transcendental goodness. And that's all spoken about in the Bhagavad-gita as well, how we can develop these qualities. Hare Krishna. So, thank you very much for listening. So we're going to have Prabhu is going to explain to us about Shishi Panchatattva Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You're all welcome. And how many of you are new? Who is new here today for the first time? Oh, one, okay. 1, 2, 3. But 7 or 8, 7 or 8. It's amazing that 7 of the winners were first time. They came for the first time and they won one of the Bhagavad-gita, which is my colleague has it there. I'm going to ask you two questions, and I need you to put your hand up. If 5 people know the answer, I wouldn't know who to give the book to. Therefore, I need you to put your hand up. Okay? I'll just give the questions now. One second.
Oh yeah, it's people outside. Maybe if you could move a little bit over so we make more space.
Oh, yeah.
There's room here. Come in and sit down.
There's plenty of room here. So to win one of 2 Bhagavad-gita, you have to answer the question correctly. Okay?
Yes.
The first question is, at what age Krishna lifted Govardhana mountain? How many put your hand up? One. You put your hand up.
Prabhu, that one.
There's one person there.
Who is first? Let me see who's first. I need somebody to keep an eye on who's first.
I think Prabhu there in the classes.
No, yourself, I think. Yes. What's the
Yeah,
answer?
Yeah, okay, Prabhuji, answer. Hmm?
13.
No, okay. Anybody else?
Mataji there, yeah.
Yeah. What did you say? 7. Very good, yeah, thank you. Are you here the first time? Or you were the 8th one, first timer? Okay, you have to make a promise that you will read one page of the book every day. Okay? And you can hand the book to me. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And congratulations, you first time.
Wow.
The second question is, who is the father and mother of Abhimanyu?
Oh,
Father
this
and
down
mother.
here, this gentleman over here was the first time.
Okay.
Is Krishna and
No, this gentleman. Yeah.
Yeah, go.
Arjuna.
Arjuna and
Adutra.
Arjuna and
Uttara.
Uttara? No. Just take a question.
He read second.
He's second. I thought we give the lady the chance. No, I mustn't shout. Unless I ask you to give that. Let's give the lady the chance.
Who was the second? The gentleman over here was second.
He was
Okay.
second.
Here. Are you here for the first time? Oh, that's a nice one. That's good. Okay, give me the answer, please.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Very good. Thank you. Thank you all of you, and thank you for coming in. Hare Krishna.
So now we're going to have the arti. If everyone could stand up for arti.
Thank you.
पत्नी को ही माँ बना दिया गया
Gora Chande Alotika Shobha
Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasaya, Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivraja Acharya Stotra Sarashish Manasavai Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON Dublin Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Nand Guru Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shishi Panchatattva Ki Go Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shishi Guru and Gauranga. Hare Bol. So our last prayer is the prayer to Lord Nrsimhadev. It's just a prayer for spiritual perfection and protection. So, and then afterwards we'll have the feast which is being served downstairs, and
some devotees might want to stay on here to the Kirtan, they can. But in the meantime, let's all gather together for this prayer. Gina. Oh, sorry. Actually, at the end, this is the Purushottama month. We still have a few days left. So this is this the last Sunday, or is there one more Sunday? But anyway, very important that you also can make spiritual advancement simply by lighting a candle and offering it at the altar. What an easy way to make spiritual advancement. So this is a special day for that. So everyone, so please be ready for the who's singing? Okay, everyone, Hashem. Hashem is going to sing and sing prayers, and then we can offer the lamps as well. Oh,
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Shri Bhagavan ke Bhagavan Maharaj ke Om Premanande. So at approximately 7:30, if anyone wants to come to see the plan for the new temple, it'll be showing on the first floor at 7:30. So if anyone wants to come along for that, please do. In the meantime, we're going to do some of the lamp offering. So which we're going to do some Q&A.
She's singing.
Oh, we're going to sing the first. Yeah. This like camera.
Hare Krishna. So there is one announcement like today's prasadam is sponsored by Amit Bhargav or their son's birthday. So we would like to thank them by loudly chanting Hare Krishna mantra one time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we would like to thank the prasadam cooking team today, led by Grishma Mataji and volunteer. So we will chant one more time Hare Krishna for them. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Vraje prasidham.
You need to move this?
We escape.
चिन्तसि सर्वस्य समस्तबन्धं नैवत्मनो भक्तरं कृतु बन्धम् मन्मानसे तामस राशि घोरे कराग्रे दुःखमाय निबद्धा लाभस्व हे चोर हरे चिराया स्वचोर दोषोचितं मे वदन्तम्
व्रजे प्रसीदं नवनीतचारं पुराणानां च गोकुलचारम्
व्रजे प्रसीदं नवनीतचोरम् उपागनाना च दुकुलचोरम्
अनेकजन्मार्जितपापचारं चोरकगण्यं पुरुषं नमामि
अनेक जन्मार्जिता पापचोरं चोराग्रगण्यं पुरुषं नमामि
कारागृहे वसि सदा हृदये मदीये मद्भक्तिपाशविदबन्धननिश्चलासन् त्वां कृष्ण हे प्रणयकोटिशितान्तरेति सर्वस्य चोरहृदयं नहि मोचयामि
कराग्रे वस सदा हृदये मदीये मद्भक्ति पाशाढ्यबन्धनानि चलासन् त्वं कृष्ण हे प्रलय कोटिशतान्तरेऽपि सर्वस्य चोर हृदयानि
हरे कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा हरे राम
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. श्री चौराष्टकों की जय, ईशानी माता जी की जय,
ऐशानी माता जी की
जय।